Record this for the people who aren't here, just so they can hear the answers as well. Welcome back. This is week 16. It's a Wednesday, the 30th of November. We're going to do the review today for the class. I was going to do the bell game, but there's only 4 of you, so I don't know how you want to do it. If you just want to like answer questions, or do you want to play a bell game? Yeah, you can do that. I can go around the room, or you can just join in, or I don't know, however you want to do it. All right, let me at least give you all who are here extra credit. Right, well, that's good. So there are, let's see, pick 15, pick 15. Let's see, there we have the test on Friday. I'm reserving a room. I think it's going to be Ed 130. Are you planning on coming to take the test over there again like you did last time, Guzman? You're gonna. Okay, I'll reserve the room. I'll post where it is. I'm still waiting on my room reservation. But it's online, it's on Canvas. So if you want to take it in class, we'll have a computer lab over there. If you want to take it at the library, or if you want to take it, at home in your pajamas, that's fine as well. It's a 45 multiple choice questions, about 15 each from each chapter, 15 from religion, 15 from kinship, 15 from art. And then it's got 3 essays, again, 1 from each chapter, 1 about religion, 1 about art, 1 about kinship. So it's pretty straightforward. If you did fine on the other ones, you should do fine on this one. Okay. So we'll start with the kinship ones. Actually, let me go back to this real quick. Have you all looked at the review sheet yet? Take a look at that if you haven't. I've got it right up here. Here we go. There it is. This is basically, I went through each of the questions. I think there's pretty much just the amount of questions that there are. I think some of them might have like a pool of 18 that it pulls 15 from or something like that. But for the most part, all these are going to be on there. So go through this. And if you know what each of these means or how it might relate to the class, then you're doing pretty well. If you don't, then please look it up in your textbooks or come by my office hours or anything like that, and I'll help you figure out what they might refer to. First one is about, we'll do I think the kinship questions first. Although Americans think kinship is about biological relatedness, anthropologists have long recognized that kinship can be from other ways as well. Which the following is a way that kinship could be reckoned beyond biology? Do you think it's A, behaving like a relative, B, being related to someone who is related to you, C, by religious rites like christening that identify a non-relative as a relative, such as a godparent, or D, all the above? Yeah, it's all the above. It's usually all the above. We talked about kinship systems, and we didn't talk a ton about this, but a little bit about different kinship systems around the world and how they group different relatives, which is the most important relative for determining what kind of kinship system you're in. Are you in a Hawaiian kinship or an Eskimo kinship, or what? Is it your grandparents, your parents, your children, or your cousins? Which one is different in different kinds of kinship systems? Are the most important for determining? Cousins. How you call your cousins, right? Because in some systems, your cousins, like in ours, which is called Eskimo kinship, your cousins are people who your parents, brothers and sisters, children, right? Versus in like a Hawaiian kinship system where your parents, brothers and sisters will also be called mom and dad. Their kids are going to be called your brothers and sisters. So it's all about, your cousins. What do you call a household that we live with mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, and 2 cousins? What do you call that kind of household? We have lots of different people of different generations living together. Is that a nuclear family, B, a traditional family, C, an extended family, or D, all the above? Mm-hmm. Extended family, very good. Yeah, don't believe the all above. In a kinship system with matrilineal descent, who does a man inherit his land and clan wealth from? Is it mother? Is it father? Is it mother's brother or father's mother? Mother's brother. Yeah, it's actually from your mother's brother, even though it's matrilineal. But when in a matrilineal system, who do you trace descent through? Mother, very good. Most families functions as groups of real people who work together towards common goals. Such family groups are referred to as what? Is it a natal family, B, an extended family, C, a nuclear family, or D, a corporate group? What do we call that? We have a bunch of people working together towards common ends. Corporate group, very good. What do anthropologists call the process of forgetting whole groups of relatives? Like, oh, we don't talk to those people. We don't really think of them. Or my dad's not around, so I don't really know about his brothers and sisters. What do we call that? We call that A, ethnic forgetting, B, ethnic amnesia, C, genealogical forgetting, or D, genealogical amnesia. What might you call that? Which one? Almost. Genealogical amnesia, right? You're forgetting amnesia, part of your genealogy. So I'm forgetting that whole part of my family tree. What's one of the things that come from having in our culture, at least most people in our culture, get their last names from their dads? What's one of the things that happens because of that? What's one of the effects of taking our last names from our dads? Is it A, land and real estate goes through couples' sons rather than daughters? Is it B, it's easier for families to forget the last names of women after several generations? Or is it C, it prevents women from having any control over the family's wealth? What's an impact of only using dad's last name? What was that? There is an all above. Yeah, but it's not right. Don't be confused. Don't be lured in. Yeah, that you forget. Great grandma, what was her last name before she got married? Oh, I don't know, because she's just been, Grandma Stanley forever. What do we call a family formed by a married couple and their children? Is it A, a natal family? Is it B, a traditional family? Is it C, a nuclear family? Or D, an extended family? No. Nuclear, yeah, good job. What do you call it when a woman marries more than one man? Is it A, polygyny? Is it B, polyandry? Is it C, adultery? Or is it D, none of the above? Polyandry, very good. What do you call descent based on a single line? Tracing your descent from a single line. You call that A, matrilineal descent, B, patrilineal descent, C, unilineal descent, or D, cognatic descent? Unilineal, yeah, it's not a trick question. One, lineal line, one line. What do you call it when someone has to marry outside of their clan or group? You call it a corporate group, B, endogamous, C, exogamous, or D, a lineage? What do we call it when you have to marry outside of your group? Exogamous. Yeah, exo meaning outside, ogamous meaning marriage. So marriage outside. What do we traditionally in American society, what do we inherit patrilineally or from our dads? Is it A, our land? Is it B, our height? Is it C, our wealth? Or is it D, our surnames? Surnames, yeah, last names. Which refers to the family in which you were born and raised. What's your family that you're born and raised in? Is it A, your traditional family, B, your natal family, C, your nuclear family, D, your family of procreation? Which one? Family you're raised in. Nope, that's the one that when you have your own kids. Nope. Nope, just keep guessing. There's only 4 of them. The other one, yeah, it's the other one. It's natal. Natal means born. It's the one you're born into. Natal family is the one you're born into. Family of procreation is when you have your own kids. The sexual revolution of the 1960s was led by new technology. What was the new technology which changed practices of sex and reproduction in the 1960s? Is it A, television, B, condoms, C, in vitro fertilization, or D, birth control? Birth control pills, yeah. History and society has a big change, or has a big impact on changing demographics in the country. And between 1942 and 1946 in America, birth rates were very low. Why were birth rates low in America between 1942 and 1946? Is it A, the majority of household incomes were low because of the Great Depression? Was it B, most young married men were serving in the military in World War II? Is it C, there was legislation in place to discourage many people from having children? Or was it D, Americans were just not having sex back in the day? World War II, yeah. They were off fighting. Women who practice polyandry, which is what's polyandry? Do you remember? More than one man. They tend to marry who? Who do women who practice polyandry tend to marry? Is it A, two or more male cousins? Is it B, a father and his sons? Is it C, two or more male friends? Or is it D, two or more brothers? Brothers, yeah, very good. I'm going to cut one of these. So I run these with you so I can figure out which one to cut. We'll cut that one. All right, so that's our questions on kinship. Feel pretty good about those. If you don't, you can watch the video because I'm recording this right now and you can see what the answers are. Yeah. Most people won't actually watch this video, so they're lost, right? Key feature, this one's, we're gonna do some religion questions next, right? About 15 questions on religion. Key feature of religious beliefs and behaviors is that they are rooted in what? What's a key feature of religious beliefs and behaviors? Is it A, they're rooted in dogma? Is it B, they're rooted in historical documents? Is it C, they're rooted in natural phenomena? Or is it D, they're rooted in social behaviors and actions? No. 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 The last one. It's always the last one. Yeah, social behaviors and actions, right? What we're actually doing. Anthropologist Paul Gamelch studied magic in American society, especially in sports. Studied what kind of sports ball did Paul Gamelch study that found that players had lots of magic? Did he study A, soccer, B, basketball, C, baseball, or D, hockey? Baseball, very good. Anthropologists now understand that magic is what? Is it A, the basis of many rituals? Is it B, usually involves working at a distance without physical contact? Is it C, it's often frightening or dangerous? Or is it D, all the above? Yeah, it's all the above. Good. We talked about fundamentalism a bit. Anthropologists think that there's a rise in fundamentalism in societies when? When is there a rise of fundamentalist belief in religion? Is it A, when things are stable? Is it B, when things are changing? Is it C, when there's a peacetime? Or is it D, when people are in a rural setting? Yeah, when things start changing, people often go back to like traditional religious beliefs because they want to find something to like hold on to as the world changes around. We talked about voodoo dolls when we talked about magic. A voodoo doll is a good illustration of what kind of magic? Is it A, magic that follows the law of contagion? Is it B, magic that follows the law of similarity? Is it C, animism? Or D, totemism? No. Yeah, similarity, right? I make a doll that looks like you and I'm going to stab it and then you're going to feel that same pain. Clifford Geertz wrote about religion. It looks at underlying interconnections within a society. This is referred to as what? What was Clifford Geertz's approach to studying religion called? Was it A, structural functionalism, B, neo-evolutionism, C, symbolic anthropology, or D, interpretive anthropology? Clifford Geertz. Almost. Try again. Nope. Interpretive, right? That you have to interpret it in the same way you might interpret a book or any other kind of text, right? You can't just look at the surface. You have to think about it and what it actually means. We talked about shamanism and how that's not just something that people over in those other cultures do, but we still have a bit of shamanism in our own culture today. In some Pentecostal and charismatic Christian churches, they experience religious happenings that are often similar to shamanism. What's a good example of that? Is it A, praying? Is it B, speaking in tongues? Is it C, pilgrimage? Or is it D, meditation? Speaking in tongues, right? You're like speaking in this language you don't understand in the same way that like a shaman might do that in a different culture. Magic's got how do people do magic? What are some magical techniques? Is it A, spells? Is it B, manipulation of special objects? Is it C, incantations and chants? Or is it D, all the above? Yeah, it's all the above. What do we call stylized performances involving symbols that are associated with social, political, or religious activities? Stylized performances often happening on a periodic basis. Is it A, magic? Is it B, ritual? Is it C, ceremony? Or is it D, witchcraft? Ritual, very good. Another one of the anthropologists we talked about, Anthony Wallace, his theory of religion was based on a belief in what? According to Wallace, if it's a religion, it has to have belief in what? Is it A, God? Is it B, Jesus? Is it C, the afterlife? Or is it D, supernatural things? Yeah, supernatural. Another famous old-timey anthropologist, E.B. Tyler, was also interested in the religion and what religion, the core of religion was. And for E.B. Tyler, the core of religion was belief in what? Is it A, spirits, B, magic, C, the sacred, or D, totems? No, that was Durkheim. Sorry. Try again. Spirits, magic, sacred, or totems? Spirits. Good. We talked about totems, totemism, and totem poles. Totems help create social cohesiveness. How? Is it A, stressing group identity? B, representing powerful symbols for people to focus on? C, acting as objects for group ritual activity? Or D, all the above? Yeah, it's all the above. People back in the 1920s were not as sophisticated. Anthropologists back then were not as sophisticated as we are today, and they interpreted totemism among people in the different groups around the world as evidence of those groups. What? Back in the 1920s, anthropologists interpreted totemism as evidence of a group's what? Is it A, spiritual flexibility, B, sophistication, C, solidarity, or D, limited intellectual capability? No. Yeah, limited intellectual capability. They thought those people were not as smart as us. People who are, what are people who belong to conservative religions that advocate a return to traditional principles called? What do we call it when people belong to conservative religions that advocate a return to traditional practice? We call that A, believers, B, practitioners, C, faithful, or D, fundamentalist? Fundamentalist, very good. We watched some videos about rituals, especially life cycle rituals. We watched that one about the Apache girl who goes through the ritual that takes her from girlhood to womanhood. What do we call those life cycle rituals that mark a person or a group's transition from one social state to another? Graduation is one, marriage or weddings are another one. What do we call those rituals? Is it A, magic? Is it B, animism? C, totemism? Or D, rite of passage? Yeah, rite of passage. Very good. We talked about totemism. There's a couple questions earlier about totemism, and oftentimes we think of totemism as something those people do over there, right? Totem poles and things like that. But we have totemism in American society today. What's a good example of American totemism? Is it A, the cross? Is it B, money? Is it C, beauty? Or is it D, sports team mascots? No. Sports team mascots, right? The Greyhound is our totem. We're all Greyhounds. I mean, we're not technically dogs, but it's our symbol, and we draw on the speed and agility of Greyhounds when we go play sports ball. All right. Let's Let me check how many there are now. 2, 3, 4, 6. All right, I can cut one of those. I usually cut the one that everyone has the hardest time answering. Which is why we run this in class before you take it at home. All right, so we're gonna do about 15 questions, multiple choice on art, and then we'll wrap up with our essay questions. And since we don't have enough people to play the bell game, all of you will get extra credit because you're here. Yeah, and hopefully you get the right answers too. Right? Are you taking notes? Yeah, you should be. Yeah, there's also the video, so check it out afterwards if you're too caught up in the excitement. Yeah, we're recording it. I kind of like to write things down and then listen to it again, like multimodal, but you do what you do, right? Let's see. And it's about art. Anthropologists recognize that artists can do what? What are artists doing when they make art? Is it A, are they challenging people's thinking? Is it B, they're reinforcing cultural patterns? Is it C, they're reflecting traditions specific to their society? Or is it D, all the above? Yeah, it's all the above. When anthropologists study an art object, or any kind of object really, what are they looking at? What's the most important aspect for them? Is it A, its aesthetic quality? Is it B, the value of the object at auction? Is it C, how it emerges from and exists within a set of human social relations? Or is it D, how it uses raw material, how the use of raw material affects the environment? What are anthropologists looking for when they study art? C, yeah, how it emerges from within social relations, right? We don't care about how much it's going to bring at auction. That's for art people or museum people or something like that. We're interested in how it relates to society. A lot of societies don't have a special job that you can have called artist. People just make art. You know, you're a farmer, but you make art, or you're a hunter-gatherer and you make some rock art on the wall. To have a special category or a job or a major, or the other half of our building called artist, what does a society need to have a special group of people who are full-time artists? Is it A, it must be creative and allow its youth to explore the world around them? Is it B, it must be small and isolated from contamination of ideas from the outside? Is it C, it must have a considerable degree of social stratification and lots of different kinds of jobs? Or is it D, its people must be ethnocentric? Yeah, social stratification. If everybody's doing the same thing, you probably don't have a class of people called artists. And it's only when ancient civilizations show up where you can have a guy or a woman whose full-time job is going to be making art. We talked about, well, two of us were in here yesterday, on Monday, and we talked about advertising, which I thought was like one of my favorite classes for this whole semester. It was really great, and everyone missed out. It was so good. We watched lots of ads, and we talked about what they meant. We talked about how oftentimes in America today, when we look at ads and advertising, people are trying to sell us not only a product that we need, but ideas about ourselves and about those objects, right? So people's fascination with having the newest Nike shoes or iPhones is an example of what process or what concept. Is it A, a flair for style? Is it B, high aesthetic taste? Is it C, commodity fetishism? Or is it D, all the above? No, it's tricky. Yeah, commodity fetishism, right? So these objects somehow take on a life of their own. And by owning this pair of sneakers, it's going to make me play basketball like LeBron James or something. People like to buy things. We all like to buy things. Why do we buy things? Seeking out and possessing consumer goods is a way that people in our society do what? Why do people buy things? Is it A, it can express their social status? Is it B, it can identify them with a particular group? Is it C, it can express their gender identity? Or is it D, all the above? Yeah, it's all the above. When we look at an object's history, anthropologists are referring to what? When we look at an object's history, Is it A, we're looking at who made it? Is it B, we're looking at how the object was produced? Is it C, we're looking for how the object's interpretation or interpretations about that object might have changed over time? Or is it D, all the above? Yeah, we're looking at the dimension of history of an object. Yeah, it's all the above. Who made it, where it was produced, how it was produced, and how interpretations of it may have changed over time. When objects begin to take on mystical powers and people become obsessed with them, what do we call that? Is it A, magic, B, aesthetics, C, artistic sensibility, or D, commodity fetishism? When objects begin to take on mystical powers and engender obsessive desire in consumers, what do we call that? When you just got to have that new iPhone. Yeah, commodity fetishism. Very good. We talked about film a little bit. When people watch movies in different cultures, they often have different interpretations of them. When people consume these films, they often do what? Is it A, they embed local concerns and interpretations into the movie they're watching? Is it B, they can't make sense of it because it's not their own stuff? Is it C, they typically understand it in the way the director wanted them to understand it? Or is it D, they are offended by the stereotypes they see on film? When you watch a movie in a different culture. No, they embed local concerns and interpretations into the story. Yeah, it's that one, right? So they're interested in, they'll watch it within their own framework. So for example, people, when we were in Belize, we had watched the movie Apocalypto because it's about Maya, and people would interpret it differently than the director. They would see it as the spirits in the forest and what they were doing versus like ancient Maya stuff, right? Even though the director intended something different. When workers make only part of an object rather than a whole, right? Instead of building a whole car, I now work in a factory and I do, I turn the same bolt on every single car 10,000 times a day. When workers only make one part of an object rather than the whole, they have less relationship with the fruits of their labor. Karl Marx suggested this changing relationship with objects they were producing created a feeling of what? What happens if you work in like an assembly line, you're only doing one little task, you're not creating the whole thing? Do you feel A, freedom? Do you feel B, joy? C, boredom? Or D, alienation? Yeah, alienation. You don't feel like you really have any connection to that project, right? Objects change over time in a lot of different ways. Which of the following is not a way that objects change over time? Right? Which of the following is not one of the way that objects change over time? Is it A, the form, shape, color, material, and use may change from one generation to another as people continue to make it, like, for example, pottery or something like that? Is it B, an object changes significance and meaning as its social and physical context change? Is it C, a single object changes significance and meaning as it changes hands and is passed between people? Or is it D, an object always becomes less valuable and less significant as it ages and deteriorates over time? Yeah, D, right? You think of like an old painting from the Renaissance, it's become more valuable over time, right? Or any kind of antique or collectible. About two more of these. With the advent of industrial factories, which of the following is true? Is it A, workers became less attached to the goods they were making? Is it B, workers became less attached to the people who were buying their goods? Is it C, workers were more attached to their wages than the products they were making? Or is it D, all the above? With the invention of factories, which is true? Workers are less attached to their goods that they make. B, workers are less attached to the people who are buying the goods. C, workers are more attached to their wages, or D, all the above? Yeah, all the above. Good job. Yeah, they're all true. Let me get that one. All right, so that's all the art questions. Let's do our essay questions. Each chapter has 2 essay questions, and it's going to randomly select which one to give it to, just to mix it up between them. We'll do the kinship one first. The kinship ones first. So, although romantic novels and romantic comedy films routinely emphasize that people should marry for love, there are many other reasons that people get married. Identify 3 other reasons why people might want to marry, whether they are in love or not. What was that? Well, yeah, that's a great reason to get married, right? You're a duke or you're a count or a princess. Sure, I'll marry you. I don't even know you, but sounds good. What's another reason? Yeah, line of descent, right? There's maybe pressure to keep your lineage going. You don't necessarily love this person, but you want to start a family and have a partner and a spouse. That's 2. What's the third one? Social status, right? This person's a high class person and I'm a low class person. Could also be for maybe immigration purposes, right? I need to get a green card or I want to become a citizen. So I'm going to marry this person. I don't even know them really that much, but I can get my citizenship that way. There's lots of different reasons, right? The people get married beyond love. We should try to think about them, at least 3 different ones. According to anthropologists, what are families and how do different cultures around the world maybe have different kinds of families than our own? What are families, first of all? According to anthropologists. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so what are some of the different ways that maybe it's different in different places? Who counts as family? You might call them brother or sister or something like that. Yeah. What's another way family might be different in different places? Yeah, right. You might have different forms of who you can marry, whether you can have more than one spouse, or you're monogamous versus polyandrous or polygynous. You might also have other forms of non-biological kinship. You might have godparents or something like that. So you have kinship that's mediated through religion and the church versus like actual biological relationship. My friend Rose did her research in Iran and she studied food kinship. So how people who eat together all the time, if you grow up eating from the same table and the same woman is cooking for all of you, then you consider yourself family because you sit around the table and eat together, right? So lots of different kinds of things, whether you live in a nuclear family versus an extended family, whether you live next to your in-laws or your parents when you get married versus you start your new household somewhere else. Lots of variation around the world. Point being that there's no like one right kind of family, and that we as anthropologists are really interested in all of that. And then you can also think about kinship charts and why kinship systems are cultural rather than biological. Why are kinship systems cultural rather than biological? Think back to your kinship chart, which you made for your homework. Yeah. Yeah, right. You might have people who you're biologically related to. We don't talk to those people, right? We don't talk to my dad's cousins or something like that. Versus other people who you might not actually be biologically related to, whether it's somebody who was adopted into your family or, like my roommate in college's kids call me, Uncle Eric or something. We're not biologically related, but we have those social relationships, right? So it's not just about the DNA tester, my ancestry.com, but it's about who I have those social relationships with. So you feel pretty good about those 2 essay questions? Yeah, good. We'll do the ones on religion next. According to anthropologists, there is a difference between magic and religion. What are the differences between magic and religion? How would you know if you're an anthropologist studying another culture if something was magic or if it was religion? Yeah, that's hard. What do you think? How can you know? Is something magic or is it religion?
Doesn't like with religion, it's more like there's like something sacred. Part
Yeah, that's a good word. Sacredness. There's often a lot of stuff about doctrine, right? The rules that you're supposed to follow, the rituals like married and buried and christening and all that stuff, right? That's all religion, right? Nothing magical about that. It's something that's part of that religion, oftentimes done or performed by priests, right? People who don't necessarily get possessed by the Holy Spirit or whatever, spirits of nature or whatever, but go to school, right? I went to seminary to learn about the Bible, and now I can do marriages and stuff like that, right? Versus magic is what? How's magic maybe different from that? Yeah, more supernatural. Oftentimes it's people like either individuals or small groups trying to like manipulate the supernatural, right? Trying to get in touch with it on a personal level versus like at a wedding, your wedding has to be really crazy for supernatural stuff to start happening at your wedding, right? It's going to be a wedding for the ages. But in magic, there is much more of that, right? Often there's that esoteric knowledge. Oftentimes you're trying to directly change an outcome, right? I'm going to do magic to heal someone, or I'm going to do magic to curse someone, or I'm going to do magic to make my crops grow. Those are all magical things versus like going to church on a Sunday and doing communion, right? It has that kind of religious significance or sacredness to it. But, if that wine actually turns to blood or the bread cracker thing turns to the flesh of Jesus, then you know that like things have kind of gotten a little crazy at church that day. But oftentimes there is that kind of overlap, and especially in ritual situations, there's, the line between magic and religion often gets blurry. And that's because these are just categories that anthropologists have come up with to help us describe the world. And so sometimes things aren't quite as black and white as they would seem. We often think of ourselves in American society today as very rational and very far removed from magic. What are some ways, though, that we might have magic in modern American society?
Like superstition among sports.
Yeah, that's a great one, right? Paul Melch's, you can cite him, right? When things are uncertain, if I'm going to play baseball or something, I need to hit that home run to win the game. I might have a little ritual that I do, or I use my lucky bat or something like that, or I tap the ground 3 times. It's another example, besides sports, of some way we might have magic in modern American society. Do you do any little magic rituals before you take your finals?
Yeah,
What should I do?
something while studying
Yeah.
and then eating the same thing while taking the test.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, because it's like supposed to bring back those same memories or something. And yeah, and so, and even if it doesn't work on a scientific level, maybe it works on a psychological or a mental level, right? I'm hoping in a case of like similarity, right? Some magic of similarity, that if I eat the same food, I'm going to have the same experience of, recalling this knowledge. Another example might be if you have a junky car and you have to drive to Albuquerque or something, you might say a little prayer before you head off, right? Because you don't want to break down out in Vaughn where there's no signal or something like that. You might, rub your car a couple times and say, I promise I'll take you to the shop if you just make it here and you don't leave me on the side of the road. The other question has to do with rites of passage. What are rites of passage? What do we mean by a rite of passage? Yeah, right. It's going from one life stage to another. So think about some examples of that. And oftentimes, if you think all the way back to like week 1 or 2 in the semester, we talked about different types of roles that you have in society, whether you're a parent and a child or a student and a teacher or whatever. A lot of times rites of passage are where we get those roles from, right? You can't just like walk in here and start to teach classes. What do you need to do first? What do I need to do before I can like teach classes here at Eastern? Yeah, I have to get my PhD and graduate, right? I have to go through this rite of passage. Same if you want to join the Army, You don't just like walk into the recruiting office and then they just give you a gun. What do they do instead? How do you go from civilian to soldier? Yeah, you go through this boot camp period. You learn all the skills that you need, both like physically skills, I'm gonna do push-ups and pull-ups and things like that, but I also learn like the mentality of becoming a soldier. So what are the different stages? We talked about 3 different stages in a rite of passage. What are they? Victor Turner talks about the 3 stages in a rite of passage. What happens first? Say, we'll do the boot camp example. How do you go from civilian to soldier? What's the first stage? You sign up. You have to separate yourself, it's called separation, from your old life. You go to boot camp, you get on the bus, you have to go to a different place. They don't let you stay at your house anymore. You have to like do all this weird stuff. What's a way that they mark you when you first roll into boot camp as no longer a civilian? They shave your head. Why? Why do they do that? It's just because they're mean. They hate long hair hippies. Why do they do that? Less maintenance.
Just so that in like life you have before.
Yeah, it's all gone, right? That stuff you were before, you're a new person. And they don't let you choose your haircut, right? You can't be like, oh, just a little off the sides, right? Another person like, yeah, long in the back. Why does everyone get the same haircut? You're all the same, right? So you are separated, step 1, from what you were before. You're in a new status separation. During this middle time, it's called liminality. That's the second step in the process, in which you're neither here nor there. You're no longer a civilian, but you're not a soldier yet. And liminal is like the upside down, topsy-turvy time when everything is different from what you would normally expect. What kind of things might happen to you during the liminal time? Shaving your head is one of those. What's another one? Yeah, right. There's like intense physical workout every day. You have to like get up super early. You don't have to like, you don't get to choose what you want to do when you're done with work. You have to do, I don't know, peel potatoes or clean latrines or something like that. And what happens to all the people who go through that together? Whether it's boot camp or whether you're on an adventure together or you're on a, yeah, you come closer. That's called communitas, right? You form a special bond. You see this at graduation, right? Everybody who graduates at the same time, even if you don't really know the people, you feel happy and you feel connected to them because we're all class of 2022 or whatever. And then at the end, what happens? You can't stay in that liminal communitas state forever. What happens at the end? How do you get your new status? You graduate. Yeah, you graduate from boot camp, or in case of the university, you graduate from the university. And there's often another ceremony that lets you know that that you're no longer in the upside down, topsy-turvy, and you have a new status. So for example, during graduation ceremony, how do we let you know that you are no longer student and you are now alumni? How do we mark that? Besides just telling you, give money to the university because you're an alumni now. You walk, right? Yeah, you walk across the stage. Do you get to pick what kind of clothes you get to wear to graduation? Yeah, same for everybody. And then you get a diploma. You listen to the boring speech for a couple hours. And then at the end, what do you do with your hat? You move your tassel from one side to the other, you throw it up in the air. And then everybody at the end gives you prizes, right? They should give you money or something like that because you've completed this thing. So you've gone from separation, you left your old life, you're in liminal state, and now you are reincorporated as a new status. Lots of examples. You can use weddings, you can use graduation, you can use boot camp, you can use an adventure that maybe you were on or anything like that. Yeah, and think about how rituals create connection or communitas between the people going through them. If you're going through a rite of passage, and how do you might feel more connected to those people at the end? The last question is about advertising and art. The anthropology, describe 3 ways the anthropology of visual culture could play a role in how advertisers, manufacturers, and filmmakers design and present their products to the public. So how might those things that we talked about art and about advertising, play a role in how advertisers, manufacturers, and filmmakers present their products to the public. So we looked at that example. We looked at a lot of examples on Monday. What about our truck ad versus Prius ad? Yeah, but like what were the values attached to those? What about the truck ad? What are the values attached to the hardworking farmer truck ad? Was it traditional? Yeah, right. It had like that old timey radio voice of like the farmer, he's like the salt of the earth, right? Hard enough to like mend a fence and gentle enough to, hug a lamb or something like that, right? And if you're like that, you should buy our truck. Versus the Prius ad was Jeff Goldblum, right, from Jurassic Park and Thor Ragnarok, right? Kind of this like scientific kind of idea about like, if you're for progress and you don't want to be left behind in the new century, get yourself a Prius, right? So it's appealing not only to the product, whether, a truck or a car is better for you, but about what kind of values and what kind of person you are and who you think you are, who you want to like express that to other people. How about movies? How can the movies that we watch say something about, our identities? Or how can the way that movies and TV show, how are they advertised to us to like really get us to be interested in? Beyond like, don't you need to binge another 12 hours of Netflix? Movie trailers. And how might movie trailers use that kind of psychology of advertising to get us to watch it? The good parts. Art, and you also think maybe about the structure, right? You can watch a movie or a movie trailer that you don't know anything about the movie, but you can be able to tell pretty quick if it's a horror movie or a comedy. How would you be able to know? Still same 2 minutes, cut up pieces of the movie. How, if I am an advertiser selling you a movie, I want you to come see my movie, how might I let you know this is a comedy versus a horror movie?
They show like 4 million jump scares.
Jump scares, right? And that's like a hallmark of horror. So even if you don't know anything about it, what else might you know? If you were making a horror trailer, if I said, make a horror trailer, get it to me by Friday. What kind of stuff might you put in there to let people know it's a horror movie? Dark, right? It's dark colors. What about the music? Yeah, ominous, just like one piano note over and over until the very end when it gets like louder and louder, right? What about a comedy? Yeah, laughing, it's fun. Yeah, I might have the famous comedians. Same with horror, right? If I put Jamie Lee Curtis in a horror movie, it lets you know that like she's the queen of horror from back in the day. So this is going to be like, a classic horror. Versus like a comedy, you might have brighter colors, you might have different music, right? Different kind of like pop music or something like that. You might have a different tempo or something like that instead of like the slowly building dread. You might have that laugh a minute kind of, this is going to be a really great movie. You're going to have a great time. Come watch it, right? So think about the ways that even though you might not know what the content of a movie or a TV show or something is, how advertisers and marketers might sell that to you based on kind of the stereotypes or the tropes surrounding what kind of car you should buy, what kind of movie this is, or what kind of clothes, what they're trying to get you to say about yourself and culture. Okay, so you feel pretty good about those questions? Hopefully.